All right, welcome back, everybody. It is currently, I forgot to do this last week. It is currently 7:49 p.m. Central Time, Thursday, I think it's Thursday, January 15th. It is Thursday. All right, so we got a lot to talk about. I got the microphone and the headphones working this week, unlike last week. Uh, Busy Super Wildcard weekend. Uh, Let me pull up the results here. But I'm sure everyone wants to hear about my Packers. I picked them to win. They did not, and they lost in uh, incredible fashion. Hang on, I'm still waiting to pull up the results. So, where are we? I'm trying to get it on my iPad. We got a lot to talk about. So, again, we're going to start with my Green Bay Packers absolutely blowing it against the Chicago Bears. Um, I want to talk about this is a terrible segue, terrible start to the podcast. I want to start things off with the winners. You know, I'd like to take a page out of Josh Pate's book and discuss winners first on this podcast. Uh, about the Bears, I don't know what to say. I mean, this team has done that all year. Just I don't like calling it resilient because at, I don't think this is resiliency. I think it's dumb luck, honestly. I mean, I know I'm going to sound like a hater, but this is true. I can't remember the last time a team did this where the Bears, they don't turn it on until the second half and they really don't turn it on until the fourth quarter. I think six, now seven of their, uh, 12 wins have come in the final 2 minutes. I mean, Bears fans can call that resilient. The media loves it. They'll call it resilient. I'm going to call it what it is. It's dumb luck. However, they still deserve a ton of credit for not giving up in games. And that is a testament to the job that Ben Johnson has done this year. Uh, Bears fans should enjoy this moment. They have taken it on the chin from Packers fans for 3 decades at this point, and they weren't the better team, but they managed to get it done, and that's something Green Bay hasn't been able to do for some time. Going forward, my opinion hasn't changed on the Bears. I still question whether or not they are legit. I don't know about legit, but whether or not they can win the NFC. Um, I mean, when you have a quarterback that's not even hitting on 60% of his throws, I mean, today you should be hitting close to 65% of your throws. And Caleb Williams really isn't even near that number. He wasn't near that number on Saturday. And at some point, you're going to play a team that is going to buckle down in the second half. Green Bay wasn't able to do it. Granted, if they were, I mean, I guess I can get into Green Bay now too. If they were able to run the ball in the second half, Chicago doesn't win that game. So, Chicago, credit to you guys. You guys deserved it. I got a lot of chirping from Bears fans on social media, mostly on Instagram. Um, that enjoy the moment. I mean, you guys have been on the losing side of this rivalry for 30 years. You finally get, I think this is the first time the Bears won the season, won 2 out of 3 or just didn't split against the Packers since I want to say 2007. Um, I think 2007 is the last time that I remember the Bears sweeping the Packers. Since then, since Aaron Rodgers took over, I think Green Bay has done most of the sweeping. I don't think Chicago has even won 2 out of 3. I know that they didn't in 2010, and that was the last time they played 3 times until this year. So this is the second time, 2 out of 3. So Bears fans, enjoy it. I don't want to. I'm not going to sit here and say you guys deserve it because I hate the Bears and I hate their fans. But enjoy this moment. Um, that's all I'm going to say. Credit to your team. I rambled there way too long. As for my Packers, this is the maddest I've been about a postseason result. I since winning that Super Bowl in 2010, I've had many games where I was despondent and low spirited and uh, whatever else you can, whatever other synonym you can come up with from those words. Occasionally mad, but this is the maddest I've been about a loss. I mean, 0 out of 10 times should you lose a game when you have an 18-point lead. And did I lose my mic? I can't. No, there it is. Okay. Um, 0 out of 10 times should you lose a game when you're up 18 points at halftime and you had an 11-point lead with about 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Should never happen, especially when your quarterback throws for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. We wasted an elite Jordan Love game, and we blew a game against a team that was inferior to us, even though we've been with more injuries. Uh, I genuinely don't know where the Packers go from here, because this isn't. I don't think it's an issue with what they have in the building. A lot of fans are quick to say we need new coaching staff, we need new front office, we need new players or whatever. And I don't know if that's the case. There are a lot of teams that would take Green Bay's roster right now. And if we fired Matt LaFleur tomorrow, he would be the front runner for every single coaching vacancy right now. He would be the top of he would get in the front of their line to interview for jobs and would probably end up getting one. And then you also have Jeff Halfley, the defensive coordinator, who's interviewing for head coaching jobs right now. So I'll get to LaFleur here in a minute. And then as for the front office, Brian Gutekunst has continuously put together one of the better rosters in the league since becoming general manager in 2018. He's not the problem. You could convince me LaFleur's the problem, although I've cooled off quite a bit since Saturday night. Saturday night, I was ready to crack some skulls and I wanted someone going. But I've cooled off quite a bit in the 4 to 5 days since Saturday night, and I just can't see a scenario where this team is better off without Matt LaFleur. This is a weak coaching carousel. You could convince me in the future that there's a Ben Johnson like candidate that comes on the market that Green Bay's better off getting, but I still think that we're a little bit a ways from that. What Matt LaFleur has done in Green Bay is pretty incredible. I mean, he doesn't get enough credit for reviving Aaron Rodgers' career and winning 2 MVPs with him. And then they move on from Aaron Rodgers, which would be a death sentence for most coaches, and takes the youngest team in the NFL to the playoffs 3 straight years. Or what did I say? Youngest team in the league, sorry, to the playoffs 3 straight years. Wins a playoff game the first year. The problem I think with our fan base is I think that 2023 season really elevated expectations. And I don't think the front office had the same opinion of the team as the fan base did. I think the front office viewed 2023 and 2024 as transitional teams. That it would take a year or two to get experience under their belt without Rodgers, and they needed some seasoning. And then 2025 they were going to go all out, or they would be ready. They thought they would be ready to compete, which is why I think that they went out. They were aggressive and got Michael Parsons. Now, after the way 2023 ended, they clearly thought, okay, we're ahead of schedule, which is why they went and got Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney. But I still don't think that they viewed them being in a Super Bowl window until this year. And I mean, I got news for y'all. They were. I mean, I know that this was an up and down season, but the team that Green Bay was becoming in late November, early December, that was the team I thought that we expected all season. I felt they were really hitting their stride. They beat up on the Vikings. They beat the Lions in Detroit on Thanksgiving. They beat Chicago and Green Bay, and then had a 9-point lead against the AFC leading Denver before injuries just piled up. They lost Micah Parsons, and the season just went downhill after that. Um, I don't think it would be the right decision to move on from Matt LaFleur right now. I think he does deserve one more year. And if it's more of the same, then you have a conversation, because I think this is slightly different than what was happening with Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy's teams got stagnant. They appeared in that NFC Championship in 2014, and then 2015 they were 10-6 and finished second in the division. 2016 they were 10-6 and got to the NFC Championship. I think a lot of us were like, okay, we're back in business. And then 2017 was 7-9. Granted, Aaron Rodgers broke his collarbone that year, missed the bulk of the season, so really not a good indicator of what was to come. And then 2018, that team was just a disaster, not a good team at all. And then they had no choice but really to fire Mike McCarthy after back-to-back seasons, and you kind of entered stagnation even before that. I don't get that opinion with Matt LaFleur. I think that this team's best days are still ahead of them, and I think this team is closer to the Super Bowl with Matt LaFleur than without him. So the contract negotiations are still ongoing with these guys. I expect him to be back in Green Bay, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's not. I mean, if they can't come to a number, I think that there's absolutely a possibility that they just part ways. But I don't expect that to happen. So where does Green Bay go from here? I There's some sort of issue in the building. I've just said though that the structure is fine, and I think it is. There's something they're not doing because they have been blowing playoff games since winning that Super Bowl in 2010. It started, 2013, really more like 2014. But 2013, they had a second half lead and blew it. 2014, they had a second half lead against the Niners and blew it. Or I'm sorry, 2013, they had a second half lead against the Niners and blew it. 2014, they had a 12-point lead against the Seahawks in the fourth quarter and blew it in the NFC Championship. 2016, or no, 2015, sorry. They had a second half lead against the Cardinals and blew it. And then, you know, they move on from McCarthy, they bring in the floor, and they get their asses kicked in the NFC Championship by the Niners. They blow an NFC Championship. Granted, they never led the entire time, but they blew it in Lambeau in 2020. They blew it in 2021 against the Niners, a game where they had a fourth quarter lead. And then 2023, they had a fourth quarter lead against the Niners. I'm gonna give him some slack for that one because that's the youngest team in NFL history to make the playoffs. They shouldn't have been there. And they were playing the number one team in the NFC when they were a touchdown dog. So you can get mad at them for that, but it is what it is. I don't have a huge problem with losing that game, though it still sucked. That's the one playoff game where I really didn't care about the result. I wanted to win, sure, but if they lost, I was like, this team shouldn't have been here anyway. And then last year they got their butts kicked by Philadelphia, who went on to win the Super Bowl. And then this year they blow up, obviously a big lead against Chicago. So this is something that this has been an organizational problem in Green Bay. It's carried from multiple coaching staffs, multiple front offices, different players wearing the same jersey. It's something in the building. I don't know what. Maybe it's a plague, something supernatural. I don't know. I think it's more likely just it's a cultural problem. And I don't know how you fix it, but I would look into making some changes on the staff, especially if you're going to keep LaFleur. I would look into getting a new run game coordinator, getting a new special teams coordinator, getting a new offensive line coach, because all three of those areas were why Green Bay lost to Chicago this past weekend. They couldn't run the ball in the second half. They couldn't pass protect Jordan Love, which is atypical of Green Bay. Usually they are good in those areas and they have a good offensive line. Injuries impacted that this year, and they didn't have Zach Tom, which was huge, and I thought he was going to play. Um, But that's where I would start. Special teams has been an issue in Green Bay since Mike Holmgren left. I'm sure these are conversations that they're having, but that's where I'm at with the Packers. We should be. I wrote it on my blog. We should be frustrated. This team should be better, but let's not overreact. This was not a good indicator of what this team is, in my opinion. There were too many injuries, too many things didn't go our way all season, whether it be one possession games, turnovers, injuries, you name it. I think next year's more because that kind of bad luck isn't going to happen in back-to-back seasons. I expect them to be better next year. I expect them to be healthier next year, and they should be motivated. I mean, they should be pissed off. And seeing Ben Johnson go in the Bears locker room after the win, saying, "Fuck the Packers" or whatever, I hate that team. Whatever, that should give them so much motivation this offseason. Um, yeah. Anyway, that's where I'm at with the loss. We'll see where they go, and we'll see what happens with the coaching situation in Green Bay these next few weeks. So, covering the other games from Super Wildcard Weekend, Rams beat the Panthers, which was a dogfight. I didn't really expect that, but I should have expected it because the Panthers have just been a tricky team all year long. Never quite been able to get a read on them. They'd go and beat the Rams and the Packers, and I think they beat another pretty good team this year, and then they would lose by 3, 4 touchdowns to the Patriots. A team that I think is good but not great. Panthers, I think are really well coached. I think Dave Canales knows what he's doing. I think Ajiro Evero, the defensive coordinator, is pretty good. This is not the most talented roster. Although I said earlier that I would do winners first, and I'm talking about the Panthers. Let me switch to the Rams. The Rams, really good team. Tough to go on the road and win. I said it last week. Indoor teams don't fare well outdoors in the postseason. We're going to have a couple games this weekend. Uh, Under those circumstances. So the Rams, I mean, they were that was resilient. Um, they faced a fourth quarter deficit and overcame it. Um, they're well coached. They are probably the second best team in the NFC, although I think that they have a pretty tough road to get to the NFC Championship. I don't think they'll have an easy time in Chicago. Uh, but I expected them to win, and they did. The Panthers, again, so as I was saying with the Panthers, I think they're well coached, and I think that they have a bright future with this coaching staff. The problem is that I don't think Bryce Young's their guy. If their front office can put together a pretty good roster, maybe you get lucky and a veteran hits the open market. But as long as Bryce Young's there, I don't think the Panthers are really going to do anything significant. Even though I feel really good about their coaching staff, they got lucky this year that the Bucks imploded down the stretch to win that weak in an incredibly weak NFC South division. So then we go to the Sunday games. Bills Jags. I had a feeling, and I still do, that the winner of this game was had a pretty good chance, I should say, of winning the AFC. And the Bills did that. And it wasn't easy. They faced a couple deficits in the game, and it took a late turnover by I believe Tre'Davious White to win the game. Uh, that was not that shouldn't be overlooked. I think a lot of people are like, well, it was the Jags. The Jags were legit. They had a really high point differential. They were kicking ass and taking names by the end of the year. That was the first. I think the Bills' first playoff one on the road in over 30 years. So that should not be overlooked. Credit to the Bills. They're gonna have to go on the road all 3 rounds in order to get to the Super Bowl. And honestly, I think they can do it. I look at the AFC and I don't know if Denver is that good. Very, very fortunate team this year. Same with the Patriots. Texans are playing really well. I'll get to them in here in a minute. But I think the Bills are a team to watch going forward. I haven't changed my mind. I think that they have a really good shot of winning the AFC. I'm curious, what are the Super Bowl odds right now? I haven't looked at those. I would imagine Buffalo probably leads the AFC teams. Let's see. No, they are just barely behind the Patriots, which makes sense. But yeah, Seahawks are first, Rams are second, Patriots third at plus 550. So it drops quite a bit. Seahawks are plus 280, Rams are plus 320, then it drops quite a bit. Patriots plus 550, and then the Bills are right behind them at plus 600, Broncos plus 750. The Bears are second to last. I love it. Um anyway, so to the Jags, I wouldn't be discouraged if I were a Jags fan. Liam Cohen did a great job this season. You saw Trevor Lawrence take a huge step forward in his development. We know that roster's pretty good, and that front office is pretty good. I would say. I don't think it's great, but they can hit on draft picks at times. Um, I think the Jags are going to be in good shape going forward. Things didn't go your way this year, but rookie head coaches don't have a great track record in the playoffs. I don't know the last time a rookie head coach won a Super Bowl. Uh, Maybe Barry Switzer in the 90s, but he was inheriting a wagon in the Cowboys. In fact, that's an interesting question to ask Google. Has a rookie head ever won the Super Bowl? Don McCafferty, Super Bowl 5, and George Seifert in Super Bowl, I'm not great with Roman numerals, 24, I believe. So it's only happened a handful of times. But the Jags, I think you got a bright future. Don't be too, keep your head high. Uh, Inexperienced team with a rookie head coach. I think they're going to be fine going forward, and they're going to give Houston a run for their money in that division, I think, for the next few years. Then we get to the Niners and the Eagles. James was not happy about this game. I was texting him. We were texting each other during both of our games, and during Green Bay's collapse, he was telling me I'm fine, and during Philadelphia's collapse, I'm telling him he's fine. We were there for each other. It was hilarious. Uh, that was a game that I'm not shocked the Niners won, but coaching was on display in that game. The Eagles were outmatched coaching wise. Like Kyle Shanahan worked Nick Sirianni, and so did Robert Saleh. And it shows what you can do with injuries when you're well coached. And Green Bay fans are going to point to that and say, this is why we can't excuse injuries, but every team's different. I don't like making that argument. If we played the Eagles, maybe we win. So the Niners just resilient. That's resiliency, is going on the road when you're short a bunch of dudes and your coaches are like, we're going to take it to this team and we're going to win, and you do it. Hostile environment too. Problem is, I don't see the Niners getting past the divisional round. Spoiler alert for when I make my picks here in a few minutes. Eagles, I'm not surprised that they lost. This team, even though I picked them to get to the NFC Championship, things have been off with this team. They haven't looked as good as they did last year. Haven't been able to run the ball. The O-line hasn't been as good. Jalen Hurts has struggled. AJ Brown's been a problem, it seems like, in the locker room. Just haven't had the same magic. And I thought they had a favorable bottom half of the bracket in order to get to the NFC Championship and maybe the Super Bowl. But you saw this team wasn't any different. So I don't know where the Eagles go from here. I assume that they're going to look at maybe a new offensive coordinator possibly and do what they did in 2024, which is hire. They won't fire Vic Fangio, but maybe they look for a new offensive coordinator since Sirianni doesn't call plays. I expect him to probably move on from AJ Brown. I could honestly see the Eagles moving on from a couple guys, not just AJ Brown. I think that this team, James might and Eagles fans probably disagree with me too. I think the window closed for them in this game or this season. I mean, as long as they have Saquon Barkley and Hurts, I believe in Jalen Hurts. I'm not gonna overreact, but I think Philadelphia's gonna have to do some retooling this offseason. I don't know if they are the top team in the NFC anymore. Obviously, since they lost, but Sunday night game, Chargers Patriots. This game, the final score was not indicative of this game. The Patriots were in full control of the game and never once really felt like the Chargers were getting in the game. And it played out kind of sort of how I thought it would, which was it was going to be a physical game, and it was. Both teams, let me see how many rushing attempts these teams had. Yeah, they had a combined like 50 some carries. I'm not good at math. 51 carries. And the Patriots ran the ball for 146 yards. The Chargers ran the ball for 87. That was the game. It's the Patriots controlled the trenches, and I'm not surprised. The Chargers have been banged up in the trenches, and uh, Justin Herbert, who, let me check the box score again. I don't remember him having a great game. Yeah, he didn't have a great game. This is 3 games in a row in the playoffs where he hasn't been great. Now, I believe in Justin Herbert, don't get me wrong, but this is a trend now that the Charger that he hasn't shown up and given his best in the playoffs. Uh, as for the Patriots, like the Bears, I'm not quite sure what to make of them, but I take them more seriously than the Bears because I respect Vrabel. Not that I don't respect Ben Johnson, because I do, but Vrabel just more experience. They're tougher. Drake May's better than Caleb Williams. I think that they are just more ready for the moment than the Bears right now, and they don't play this game where they wait till the second half to flip the on switch, you know? So I think the Patriots are legit, but we'll get answers this weekend. And then we get to the Monday. Oh, I did it again. I think I did. I talked loser first. Whatever. Monday night game was the Texans and the Steelers. A game that was not really that close. It wasn't the final score, but I was talking to somebody that was like stressing out over the game in the second half, and I said this game was over when it was 17-6. Steelers weren't going to score, 14 points or whatever, and kick a game-winning field goal and win the game in the fourth quarter. It just wasn't going to happen. They couldn't move the ball. Aaron Rodgers was flustered. The offensive line couldn't pass protect. The Texans' defense is legit, and they're going to give them a chance to win going forward. They're going to have a chance to get to the Super Bowl. I wouldn't be shocked. I almost picked it, but before the playoffs started, I wouldn't be shocked if the AFC Championship is Bills Texans or Broncos Texans at this rate. I also wouldn't be shocked if it's Bills Patriots either. But Texans are legit. However, CJ Stroud has to play better. How many turnovers? I feel like he had a couple turnovers in this game. He just didn't look great. Let's look. 21 of 32, 250 yards, one touchdown, and an interception. Yeah, he wasn't great. And the problem with the Texans is their offensive line's not great either. But as long as their defense keeps them in games, like all the Texans have to do is score about 20 points, and that's very doable in the AFC this year. So those are the results. Let's get to some picks. I have not even really thought about who I'm going to pick this week. We're going to start in the AFC. Bills Broncos. Right now, the Broncos are a 1.5 point favorite. I'm going to stick with my original pick before the playoffs start and take the Bills. There's something about this Broncos team I just don't like. Their defense is awesome. Uh, the ball has bounced their way too many times, and I think I'm a firm believer that luck runs out eventually. And they're playing a hot Bills team right now, and this is the Bills' best chance to get them. You know, uh, that week off might hurt the Broncos, and I also just haven't trusted the Broncos' offense. It's been too inconsistent. Sean Payton's a really good coach, but I don't know about Bo Nix. I trust Josh Allen a lot more than I do Bo Nix, so I'm not confident in it, but I'm going to take the Bills. Uh, then this other game. Let, let's go ahead and pick the other AFC game. Sunday afternoon, Texans Patriots. Right now, Patriots are -3. Coin flip game. This is probably the toughest game to pick in the divisional round. By the way, the divisional round is the best round of the playoffs, in my opinion. You get the mix of hot teams and like the league's best teams, which is always interesting. But I think this is the toughest game to pick. Indoor teams don't fare well outdoors in the playoffs. I said that last week. I don't think an indoor team has won more than one road playoff game in 30 years. And it's only been the one time since the 70s. So I'm going to take the Patriots. I don't like it, but I will. I think the Texans are relying a little too much on their defense. I trust Drake May more than I do CJ Stroud. And it's not like I think D'Amico Ryans is a good coach. I don't know which one of these coaches is better, but I think it's Vrabel. And cold weather, defense travels well, but at some point, this Texans offense has to get moving, and it's going to be a physical game. I think the Patriots are better suited to win that game. So I'm gonna go Patriots, which means it's Bills Patriots in the AFC Championship. So let's go to the NFC. The Saturday night game, Niners at Seahawks. Right now, Seahawks are -7. I don't disagree with Vegas. I think this is the end of the road for the Niners. I don't see them getting past this point. If they do, it's a huge indictment on the Seahawks and Sam Darnold. There's no reason why the Seahawks should lose this game unless Sam Darnold goes out there and throws 4 interceptions. The Seahawks should win this game. They have the better. They're better in the trenches. They're healthier. They have a better defense. They're well coached. Um, they have the better quarterback, I think, in Sam Darnold. But there's something about this Niners team. Kyle Shanahan. Can they do it back to back weeks? I don't know. But I'm gonna go Seahawks. Seattle's a tough place to play. Um, trying to think of what else. I think the Seahawks pass rush is going to be a problem for the Niners offensive line. They also are really good against the run, so if they can't get Christian McCaffrey going, that's going to be a problem. Cold weather, I don't really trust Brock Purdy in cold weather, so give me the Seahawks. And then Sunday, late afternoon, early evening, Rams Bears. I'm gonna keep doubting Chicago, even though I'm probably gonna look like an idiot. I'm gonna go Rams, even though I just said that indoor teams don't fare well in the playoffs. There's something about this Bears team, like the Broncos, I just don't trust. Um, I don't think that second half shit is gonna fly against a Sean McVay coach team. I think that if the Bears come out slow again, the Rams are going to move. Sean McVay, I think, is going to have a field day against this Bears defense, go up and down. I think this is a horrible matchup for the Bears. Uh, I trust Stafford more than I do Caleb Williams. I think Sean McVay is the better coach. Going into Chicago won't be easy for an indoor team. It's probably gonna be very cold. It may even snow. But I'm gonna ride with the better team and take the Rams. So that means a Seahawks Rams NFC Championship game. I think this weekend. So that's the playoff recap and coverage or divisional round picks. Uh, I want to now transition to the coaching carousel where we had Mike Tomlin choose to step away from coaching. This was it surprised me more than it probably should. It felt like the relationship had gone sour. I don't know about if the relationship had gone sour. It felt like the end in Pittsburgh. There were too many rumors about and it was different from previous years. There's always since really about like 2016, 17. There's always been rumors of Tomlin moving on. Steelers moving on from Tomlin in Pittsburgh. Uh, but this time it felt different. It felt like it had gone stale, and there were too many rumors surrounding Aaron Rodgers' potential retirement. And I think if that's true, if Aaron Rodgers was going to retire, I think Tomlin was probably sick of the Steelers playing musical chairs every year with quarterbacks and whoever veteran they were going to sign. Just you know, wasn't going to cut it. Not going to get this team to where it needs to be, which is competing for Super Bowls. So him stepping away and then moving on surprised me more than it should. I think it's the right move for both parties. I think this has been years in the making. I think that these two sides should have moved on a while ago. They hadn't won a playoff game since 2016, I believe. This is a front office that is pretty good. I mean, the Packers and Steelers are so much alike that you make fun of them. They're square. They remind you of your grandparents. They keep money and under their mattress. They don't have a credit card. They don't subscribe to streaming services. Uh, you make fun of them, but at the end of the day, like they're financially secure and they don't have a digital trail. Like they're not getting scammed. And guess who's in the playoffs every year? Just about it's the Packers and the Steelers. So they're very similar. I think this could be a quick turnaround for the Steelers, but they've got to get the quarterback situation figured out. Like I said just a few minutes ago, they've played this game of musical chairs at quarterback for too long. They tried to get a quarterback, but it was the wrong time to do it in Kenny Pickett. Uh, I follow a Green Bay beat writer named Pete Bukowski, who has said for years, like, how much would, granted, this was in the short term, if you did this now, Green Bay wouldn't go for it, but how much more beneficial would Jordan Love be on the Steelers? And if you flipped that 2020 draft where the Steelers drafted Chase Claypool in the second round and the Packers drafted Jordan Love in the first round, how much more would that help the Steelers than help both teams more than what actually happened? However, we've seen how that plays out, and long term, the Packers would never do it. But the Steelers have got to get the quarterback situation figured out. I don't know where they go from here, but they're probably gonna have to go musical chairs again, uh, and sign a cheap veteran. Maybe Rodgers comes back. I don't know. Um, and then you're probably without Tomlin going to have a rough year, but then that puts you in a position to draft a quarterback, um, which is what they need. They need to move on from some guys too. It's an older roster. Um, just hit a reset button. That's what the Steelers need, and that's what they're going to get here. As for Tomlin, I this reeks of um, Sean Payton in 2021 when he stepped away and retired or whatever, and then took a year off, came back, and the Saints traded him to Denver. I think it's going to be similar. I'm not familiar with Tomlin's contract situation, so if he steps away, is he still under contract if he comes back and the Steelers are going to have to trade him? I don't know. But I don't think this is forever. I think Tomlin will be back. Uh, I doubt he gets a job this year in this cycle. I think he's gonna, and none of these jobs just aren't great. I don't see him going to Baltimore. He's not going to the Browns. I'll get to the Giants here in a minute. There's just not. Honestly, the Dolphins could use him because I think he'd bring some toughness down there, but none of these jobs should appeal to a guy like Tomlin, a Super Bowl winning head coach, uh, coming from a well-run operation in Pittsburgh. Like he should take his time and be picky and see what opens up in next year. Um, Obviously, we don't know which jobs are going to open up next year, but there's a chance the Packers open up. Although that no, that's a no for me. Um, I'd rather have LaFleur. But Tomlin, I don't think this is forever. Shouldn't have come as a surprise. This is a move that has been in the works for a couple of years. I think both of these sides needed to move on. So more coaching carousel news. The only job that seems to be kind of filled up, although I don't think it's official, is John Harbaugh to the Giants. So I'll start with the Giants. This is a move that they absolutely have to make because the Giants, since Tom Coughlin, have been a joke. You know, my buddy William Snotty, love you. He's a huge Giants fan. They've been a joke. They've gone through coaches left and right. I think that since Tomlin, they've had 4 or 5 different head coaches because it was McAdoo, Shermer, Judge, and Dable. I think those are the 4. And then if you count Coughlin, that's 10. Or I'm sorry, 5 and 10 seasons. Um, they got to get this right. And I think John Harbaugh is kind of what they need. They need stability and someone who can, be the adult in the room and command the locker room, command respect to the players. And I think John Harbaugh can do that. Super Bowl winning head coach. I know things didn't go right for him at the end of Baltimore. And Baltimore, a well-run operation, wanted to move on, but sometimes it happens. Look at the Packers and Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy, they moved on from him, and it worked out for both parties. He had success in Dallas. Green Bay had success without him. Sometimes you just need to both sides just need to change. I said that with the Steelers and Tomlin, and the Ravens and Harbaugh needed it, and now the Giants need to benefit from it and hire a Harbaugh, get this thing back on track, start being competitive again, while hopefully the front office can tool this roster the way it needs to be, and then maybe in a couple of years Harbaugh retires or something, and you go get a promising young head coach to take this team over. That's the ideal scenario. I don't see Harbaugh winning a Super Bowl with the Giants, not as they're currently constructed. So we'll see if that becomes official the next few days, and then, like I said, we'll see what happens with Matt LaFleur. So let's go to the college football national championship, which will be between let me pull it up, the Miami Hurricanes and the Indiana Hoosiers. Right now, Indiana is an 8.5 point favorite. Um, I'm gonna pick Indiana, but I think that line's too big. I th- I have gained a lot of respect. I should say, I've been very critical of Mario Cristobal as a head coach. I've always said I don't think he's much of a coach, but I think he's a hell of a recruiter, and he's shown me a lot this playoff. The Miami, like, they have looked legit. They look tough. They've run the ball well. They are getting after it defensively. Like, he's got this program exactly where it should be, which is competing in the playoff and competing for national championships. They're recruiting well, and now they're one win away from winning it all for the first time since what, 2001, I believe. Um, so I got to give Mario Cristobal a ton of credit. I don't think this game's going to be a blowout. I think I think the Hoosiers win. It just feels like their year. They've been dominating. They got the better quarterback. I think the better head coach, even though I just gave Cristobal a ton of praise. I think Signetti's got this program rolling. I think the Hoosiers are a wagon. I saw someone actually over the weekend compare the Hoosiers to the 2019 LSU Tigers when they had Joe Burrow, and it's not a crazy comparison. Granted, like, the top of LSU's roster that year was I think, much better. We won't know until 2 to 3 years when these Hoosiers are in the NFL, but it's not a crazy comparison. Like, this Indiana team's loaded with talent. They have a number one overall pick at quarterback. Signetti, better coach than Ed Orgeron. Um, I'm gonna roll with the Hoosiers, but I do think this game's gonna be closer, and I think the closer than people think, and I think Miami keeps it within the spread. So that is all the football talk. Now I want to talk baseball. The Baseball Hall of Fame will have its process on Tuesday and reveal its Hall of Fame inductees, assuming that they will induct people this year on Tuesday. Let me pull it up real quick. So baseball will choose its Hall of Fame class for 2026 on on Tuesday. Where's the? I thought it was going to show the percentage of the vote. Let's go to baseball ref and see if that'll show it. Yeah, here we go. All right. So like I said, I wanted to talk baseball. The Hall of Fame, the Baseball Hall of Fame induction will take place next week. Uh, the class will be revealed on Tuesday. It's not a great class. Like, there's not a first ballot guy that everyone's going to flock to like we've seen the last couple of years. I believe last year was Ichiro. The year before that was Adrian Beltre. And then you also had, like, CC Sabathia and who was the guy the previous year? Was it Joe Mauer? I believe it was Joe Mauer. There's not that this year. I think the first ballot, the only guy, maybe a couple guys, that have an argument. One is Cole Hamels. I expect him to get more than 5%. So the way, if y'all aren't familiar, the way that the Baseball Hall of Fame works is you have to get 75% of the vote to get in the Hall of Fame from the Baseball Writers Association of America, whatever it's called. And if you don't get at least 5%, you're off the ballot entirely. So if you're in between 5% and 74.99%, you get to stay on the ballot for the following year. And so the first year guys this year that I expect Cole Hamels to get more than 5%. The only, I think, two guys that might get more than 5%. One is Ryan Braun, and one is Alex Gordon. I didn't know Alex Gordon had like 8 Gold Gloves. I think he has a chance. Probably Ryan Braun's going to get votes. I don't expect him to get in ever because he was linked to steroids. But Cole Hamels, I think, has the best argument of these first ballot guys. Uh, do I think he's going to end up in the Hall of Fame? Maybe. I think that's a hard maybe. I'd lean toward probably not. Um, but I think his numbers are there. I mean, he has an ERA of 3.4. He had over 2,500 strikeouts. Like, much better career than I would have thought. He helped the Phillies win a World Series in 2008. I think he's got a chance. But anyway, as I was saying, this ballot's not great. And I wonder how that's going to affect this class. Are we going to have a repeat of 2013 and 2021 where the writers don't induct anybody and they just mail it in and we'll do this again next year? They've done that twice now in the last 15 years where they just don't induct anybody, which is shameful in my opinion. You're telling me there isn't one guy y'all can get behind. Um, so I worry about turnout, and I worry if it is low turnout, how that's going to affect some of these guys on the ballot. Because I'm looking at the percentage of the vote from last year. You know, Beltran. So Carlos Beltran leads right now at 70.3. I do a blog post every year about which guys I would vote for in baseball. I've done this like for the last 3 years. Um, I don't vote for Beltran because I'm holding him in the same um, light I would a steroid user. He's linked to cheating. But I will say, I don't think Beltran. I think Beltran's situation's a little different with the sign stealing. Everyone does it. Everyone's gonna overlook it. I don't think he did it to. He didn't do it for self-serving reasons. He didn't do it to boost his numbers. Uh, they did it to try to win a championship, and it worked. And I think he took the fall. I think he was the scapegoat for that Astros team, and because he retired immediately afterwards, he wanted to win a championship, and they did. Um, so right now he's sitting at 70.3% of the vote. And I saw something. Let me see if I can look it up real quick. I wrote it on my blog, I believe, last year in regards to Billy Wagner. So at the time, Billy Wagner had eclipsed 70%, but he hadn't reached 75. Let me see if I can pull that up. 2025 National Baseball Hall of Fame ballot. Uh, so Billy Wagner, last year Billy Wagner eclipsed 73%. He almost got to 74% of the vote. And I looked it up. Since 1974, there have been 24, now 25 players that eclipsed 70% of the vote, but didn't get the 75% needed to be inducted in the Hall of Fame. Only 4 of those players weren't inducted the following year. So, and I believe 2 of those, one, I know for sure one was, I don't remember who, but he got in through a committee. I'm sure all these guys got in through a committee, except one I know for sure. So of those 4 that didn't get in after eclipsing 70, I'm sure 3 of them got in through a committee. At least one did, I know for sure. And then the one that has not is Kurt Schilling. And that's because Kurt Schilling told the writers to take his name off the ballot. He wanted to get in through his peers, and he's still waiting, but it is what it is. It was wrong the way the writers treated him. He should have been in a long time ago. But so anyway, you have the numbers there. If you reach 70% of the vote, there's a really strong chance you're going to be inducted the next year. So Beltran's in really good shape. The one I'm worried about is Andrew Jones. He's currently sitting at 66.2%. Within striking distance. I mean, it's not inconceivable that he reaches another 9%, maybe 8.8%. I'm not great at math. And gets in. That's reasonable. I think in the last 15, 20 years, maybe 30 years, the most a player has gotten from one year to the next, and the percentage of the vote is like 20%. So he gone from like 20% to 20 or 45%. Like that's the maximum you're going to do. So Andrew Jones is well within striking distance at this point. It's not going to be surprising if he eclipses the 75%. I don't know if he will. Uh, if he can get to 70, I think that's a really good mark. So he's in his 9th year on the ballot. Beltran's in 4th. He's got plenty of time. He's going to get in. Um, Andrew Jones is at 66%. He's in his ninth year on the ballot. If he can't get to 70%, I think that's trouble. However, one thing that will be in his corner is next year, there are some dudes on the ballot, like Buster Posey, John Lester. There are some dudes who I think voters will flock to, specifically Buster Posey. I think it's Buster Posey at least. And that'll help Andrew Jones if the turnout's up, I think. But those are the two guys. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say two guys get in this year, and I think it's Beltran and Jones because the other guys just aren't anywhere close. Chase Utley's third at 39.8%. That's not even close. Even if he got like 30%, that's not going to do it. Which, like I just said, that's unheard of. Most guys, I think, in the last 15, 20 years, haven't not there hasn't been a player that's done better than like 25%. Uh, Gain 25% of the vote from one year to the next. So Utley isn't going to get in. A Rod, Alex Rodriguez probably not going to get in. Probably ever. This is his fifth year on the ballot. Utley, if he continues this trend, he probably will get in. Manny Ramirez, this is his last year on the ballot. He's done. He won't get in. Andy Pettit, this is his eighth year. I highly doubt he gets in. Felix Hernandez is one I want to keep an eye on because he had a very strong showing last year in his first year on the ballot. He got 20% of the vote, which is pretty good for someone whose numbers like weren't quite there. Let me pull him up. He had an ERA of 3.42 with 2,500 strikeouts, but he had a Cy Young. He had pitched a perfect game, multiple time All Star. Injuries derailed his career. I wasn't convinced he would get that many votes, and he did. So I'm curious to see how he does this year. Uh, Bobby Abreu, I don't think he's going to get in. This is his seventh year. Last year he got 19.5%. Jimmy Rollins has to pick it up. This is his fifth year on the ballot, and he's currently at 18%. That's got to get up, and I can't believe he's not getting more consideration from the voters because he's got a ways to go. Omar Vizquel, this is his ninth year. He's not going to get in. He's been trending in the wrong direction for a while because he's close at one point. I think he had eclipsed 60% of the vote at one point, and I believe since 2020. Let me pull that up real quick. 2020 Baseball Hall of Fame. So in 2020, Omar Vizquel got up to 52.6% of the vote. And I think that's the highest he's been because 2021, yeah, begins his downward trend. And he's been trending downward for reasons that have nothing to do with what he did on the field, as far as I'm aware. Uh, the last few years, and it's gone to the point where I just said he was at 52%. Now he's not even at 18%. So the voters have given up on him, and he's not going to get in. Dustin Pedroia, his second year on the ballot, 11%. We'll see how that goes. He had a better showing than I would have thought. Mark Burley, this is his sixth year. He's at 11%. We'll see how that goes. Francisco Rodriguez, this is his fourth year. He's currently at 10%. That's another one that I think I would vote for to get in the Hall of Fame, but he's got to pick it up. Jimmy Rollins and Omar Vizquel were the other two that I would. So of the ones that I would vote for, I wouldn't vote for Beltran, but I've already said I don't have a problem if he gets in. I would vote for Andrew Jones, Felix Hernandez, Jimmy Rollins, Omar Vizquel, Francisco Rodriguez, and Torrey Hunter. I wouldn't vote for Chase Utley, and I've told James that, and James agrees. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, but I think he's very popular, so we'll see if he gets in the Hall of Fame. Francisco Rodriguez. I mean, this is the single season saves record holder. Had a really good career. I mean, I'm looking at his numbers. Had a 2.86 ERA, over 1,000 strikeouts for a reliever. I don't get why he's not getting more consideration. Maybe voters just don't like him. I don't know. David Wright, I'm surprised has hung on to the ballot. Currently at 8%. Torrey Hunter, this is his sixth year on the ballot. He's barely hanging on at 5.1%. Never eclipsed 10. He's got to really make up ground. Like he needs like a 25-point swing. Like you want to talk about a dude that needs a 25-point swing? It's Torrey Hunter. and I don't think it's going to happen. After if you can eclipse 10% of the vote after 5 years, I have a hard time seeing you getting in, and that's a shame because Torrey Hunter is a really good player. I don't get why he's not getting more consideration. Uh, he wasn't a slouch at the plate. I know he was known for defense, but he wasn't a slouch at the plate. Um, I mean, I looked it up. He's one of let me what did I write on my blog? Corey Hunter. He's won 9 Gold Gloves, and there are 7 outfielders to win at least 9 Gold Gloves in baseball history. 7 of them are in the Hall of Fame. The two that aren't are Torrey Hunter and Andrew Jones. I'm not kidding. So put Andrew Jones in the Hall of Fame, and voters get your act together and start voting for Jimmy Rollins, Francisco Rodriguez, and Torrey Hunter. It's absurd that it's lasted this long. All right, I'm approaching almost an hour. I thought this would be a long podcast, so I'm not surprised. Um, everyone, hope you guys have a good weekend. I'm very much looking forward to the weekend, not just because it's a long one, but I'm gonna go see the Fellowship of the Ring on Friday night in honor of the Lord of the Rings 25th anniversary. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Didn't get to see it as a kid. I grew up with parents that they didn't say I couldn't like Lord of the Rings, but they just weren't into that. So they weren't going to go take me to see the movie. My parents are I love my parents, but they're an odd bunch. They don't like Star Wars, they don't like Lord of the Rings, they don't like Game of Thrones, like that's just not their thing. Um, they don't even like superhero movies that much. So that was the house I grew up in, and I had to live vicariously through my friends. If I wanted to watch Lord of the Rings, I had to go to my friend's house. And my parents, I had to beg my parents to take me to see Harry Potter as a kid. So I'm looking forward to Friday night. I want the popcorn bucket and I want a cup to honor the 25th anniversary. So looking forward to that. Everyone, again, have a good weekend, long weekend. See you.